we need now yeah, so it's a audience choice and the expert panel choice that you need not be introduced because everybody knows you. So she'll be speaking on the women in leadership and why not. And to be very frank with you, a few years before in one of the AIOS conferences, she spoke on why women should lead. And although they have a difficulties of having children and they take off from the practice, but one statement she always said that having children is like an investment for the long term. It's not the short term profit you get, but the long term profit. And then she says that the children are now more attached to me rather than her Ramurthy sir. So so that actually caused the goosebumps in majority of them. So definitely I think she's a very motivational speaker when it comes to the women leadership, and we have none other than Dr. Chitra Ramurthy to speak on that.
I'm sorry, I'm breaking the queue. The leadership segment comes at 12, but I have to go for the court martial. So since Sanjay Chaudhary has gone, he'll come back later. I thought I'll take that slot. So 15 minutes, bear with me. It is a motivational talk for all the women leaders, and the men can look on with amusement. So there are more men here incidentally in the audience. So the topic is women in leadership, why not? So basically, very simplistically and altruistically speaking, what is leadership? Before I go on to women in leadership. Leadership is not about titles and positions or flow charts. It's about just one life influencing the other life. Is it a virtue? Is it an emotion? Is it a passion? Or is it a very difficult terrain? Or is it a terrain that all of us have to walk just because some of those leaders walk? After all, it could be tough, it could be frustrating, it could be steeped in politics. So each of us have to seek these horizons, but that's when the story of leadership starts. This was one tiny leader when in our younger days, we used to play outside more than the youngsters play inside. So we used to fly kites. And there was one young guy who used to have very sharp threads and used to run ahead of us and used to bring down huge number of kites. I wish his mother understood the leadership quality which was there in him. And had he been brought forward, probably today he would have been a big leader. There's another story of a household which has a very good cook and a mistress of the house. There's quite a big household, right from the grandfather to the grandchildren. And this cook is able to reach out to the food palate taste of every of those individuals and cooks accordingly. And the mistress of the house, somehow right from the grandfather to the father to the son, somehow will identify this mistress in the corner of the house and they will share their problems. Both of them smiling and both of them very simplistic. But I think there was leadership in them too. In fact, if you see one ant leading a trio of ants to build a ant hill, even that I would say is leadership. In other words, I think leadership is something which is seen in every nook and cranny. You have to just stand aside and watch. But of course, if this leadership is combined with modesty, combined with humility and transparency, and if this leadership has a passion to keep the whole team together, has that extra brilliance, that extra genius, which is what anyway that makes that person is a leader, I would call that true leadership. Of course, it's just telling you stories about the recent past, the COVID times. There were young guys who went on to help the senior citizens about getting them bank accounts and food and all that. There were some youngsters in south of India which came in the papers who were spending money from the limited resources to get food for the people in the shelters. Now, I call that as leadership. Leadership is not about running rallies or collecting or making false promises or standing on podiums and giving talks. But it's the leadership, is that fire in that belly, which is a true leadership quality. And every single person of us gets that chance for that leadership. It is just that you have to grasp that moment of leadership, understand it somehow came to you and just take it up. And if you take it forward, it is a satisfying moment. Coming back to my topic, okay, women in leadership. What are the issues which come and hit in the forefront? In fact, the men have been very generous, and I am one of those women who's talking on the podium here among so many men. So I'm sure all your men are also been encouraging you so that you're here today. But there has been a tough evolution, which is why we need to segregate this woman and talk about her. There has been a gender bias, and it appeared as if the women were not meant for top priority positions because it was as if she did face the brunt of familial challenges. And even those women who came to work were in middle managerial posts because they knew that this woman is going to be plagued with challenges, and it was an untold truth. There's going to be an inconsistency in her work, and the man in question, well, he would play the field. He was unfettered, he was unhindered, and of course, he was chauvinistic and dominant. So he went on. But history did not allow that. There was a rise in the world aggression, and with sheer work and determination, some movement came forward. Then came a society when we realized that if you combine men and women in work, there's a diversity of thoughts, different perspectives, a lot of collective decisions, and there are varied interests. A woman thinks differently, a man thinks differently, but they are all come together. There is a context which gets created, and then they realize that it is a strong new platform. And then there were some mentors and leaders who evolved, and they took on different kinds of leadership. Some of them would talk of their success stories, some of them would give their free advice, some of them would actually train, some of them would give monetary support. But while all this was happening, often one woman was an enemy of the other woman, because what would happen is one woman is growing in a steadfast growth, and taking on other women, it sort of made her feel a little insecure. I wouldn't be able to explain that. Maybe it was a feeling that she was not fighting in a woman's world, she was a man in a man's world, so she might stop supporting the other women who were far close to her. But then, let us understand all women. We have been the princes for our fathers and our mothers, and how we were brought up with so much of love and affection and hopes and ambitions about us. They actually, all our fathers thought that they would never find the right kind of husband for us because we were so very special. And that speciality which you have in you, you do have to take it forward. And I'm going to give you the demographics. What has happened today, there has been a change in the life patterns. There have been late marriages, fewer children, childcare, creches, all have come. So it is not preventing women to get drained out of the system, but there have been those invisible barriers which are now getting broken up. And now women had started going into different places. You need to ponder. There was a very popular Harvard Business School study which showed that those companies which brought in women partners, they saw a 1.5% spike in their overall fund, and the profitable exits were better. So then women in leadership definitely were bringing in some tangible benefits. And then this context of glass cliff often comes up with women. A glass cliff is mentioned when there is a moment of crisis. And you found that those companies which were failing, these are reports which I extensively read, that companies were failing and they would get a woman into the organization. Is it that the woman was better in crisis development, or is it that the woman, anyway, she's a second in line, it's a failing company, let us give her a chance? Or is it that woman can handle adverse moments definitely better? Whatever it is, many of these women took up the reins and did get these companies to get better. Pandemic times had a whole range of women, governors of states all over the country, different parts of the globe, doing extremely well. And the global databases pulled out assessments of about 60,000 leaders, and it showed that on an average, 50% of them were women, and women actually outscored men in most leadership competence. There are two kinds of leadership qualities. One is transformation leadership, and one is transactional leaderships. Transformation leadership is sort of, it is about building self-confidence and strong values and individualized considerations, intellectual stimulation, and a lot of these. Whereas transactional was goal after goal. You work this well, you get this payment, how to keep the team together, what are the results, what are the procedures done, how do you take it forward? And it was found that the men were more into the transactional leadership and women were more into the transformation leadership. There are pros and cons to each. I'm not going to discuss it in my limited time. But this woman, you can imagine each of these women standing on top of a cliff with a ground around and knowing that she has the potential in her to take up that leadership moment and take it forward. The important thing came of all of these different studies was that there were women in the front lines too, and there were many women who could actually be cast as heroes, who really did well in their life. And then came this pandemic time when there was a lot of those barriers actually broke down. What they realized that the woman could work from home. Those rigid boundaries between physical workplace and the home slowly dissolved. And it was not just a woman area to work at home. They found that there was an unnecessary office spaces, saving on rentals could be thought, and unnecessary sparing the commuting, wear and tear of family traveling and the family separations. All of this started to be realized, and it came to be understood that why not you could have working from home and still do very well. And this seemed to be pretty good for many of the women as in these times, and it has stayed on beyond the pandemic times. And homeschooling children, single parents, shift workers, it was actually a blessing and advice. So then one more thing came out of it. What came out of it was the men and the women working from home were actually serving the same turf. And there were men who had started helping the woman in the kitchen, in the washing, and many things, because the sensitive man realized that the woman was doing this and doing that too. So there was a greater understanding and a mutual respect. And companies started also looking at a deeper look how diverse this woman is, and including them into their practices, and having more of women in them with this pattern of working from home had its own gains. It was giving them a broader reach. So what did we see this far in what I spoke to you? We saw a history of evolution. We saw the struggle. We saw the gender bias. We saw the gender pay gaps. We saw the social discrimination. There was sexual harassment, but there was a move forward. And there were associations and activists coming forward to their rescue. And then there was a better future which was happening. In this context, when you're talking of women in leadership, why not I say a few things of ophthalmology and women? The ground reality was truly different. It was a silver lining. The mantle of leadership is diverse, but there was more chances of equal footing. But then there were technological challenges. The woman had to learn all those technological skills with those limited resources which was there, because she was tied by family, she was tied by a requirement of a career, she was tied at keeping a good home, and she had to bridge all these bridges between the family, children, career pool, and need to stay afloat with her contemporaries, her colleagues. There was WhatsApp, there was social media, there was ways for her to know how the guys were going on and was it right. And if you look at the study, which tells us about the redistribution of responsibilities, women still were spending 352 minutes a day on unpaid work, as against 52 minutes amongst men. Men in the audience to note that this has to be changed. So the realization also came that you need to tap your resources. But women, as a woman much older to all of you, I think you should have the grace to allow that passage of time for childbearing and follow up responsibilities. You should have the graciousness to enjoy your motherhood. It's a gift which only a woman can have. You should have the intelligence to exploit each moment. Accept that there would be a gradual shift from your part time work to full stream. Take the help of leaders around you. Use your in laws, your parents, use them in a very, then other ways, I don't mean misuse them. Understand that they are there as your background support. They are going to help you build strong foundations. But yes, a moment would come while all this was happening, a moment of redundancy. There's also a self realization that your colleagues have moved on, but you have not. But I think you only see obstacles when you take your eyes off the road. So then a woman had to look at all those hurdle races and be prepared that she's going to take work at small measures. A growth for her had to be a constant process, maybe a slow, steady process, but she has to understand that career is her personal belonging, and it is a solitary climb. That husband of hers is also not going to help her in that climb, but it has to be an urge within her to make this climb. This was another survey which was done, which showed that the woman earned 19% less than the male counterparts, but that is so irrelevant. There are so many business models which are available there, and I think a woman has to have the ability to dream. She can build herself, equip herself in different measures. In the interim period during the taking care of the child, she could get herself qualified. She could knock doors. She could learn on management skills. She could learn on revenue skills. She could learn all of it so that there is some knowledge which is being acquired. She should start a small practice if she is good, got a good connect. She could actually join corporates and different hospitals, even a government medical college, anywhere. But then she should always have a goal in mind that there's a big battle along the way and she's not going to lose sight of a final gain. So, what you need to do as a woman, you should take yourself out of the routine negativism, the negative thinking which might come onto you, crush it. You have to strengthen your strike, and you should also have the generosity of the woman to give more to the family and society and believe that your horizon is a distant dream, but it is a reachable dream. You build your practice, you find that social niche in the society. You may not be able to, some of those climbs may be rocky climbs, so you don't have to board it all alone. You could do a risk free life too. But always feel a sense of ownership and pride in yourself. Always keep your family ties together because they are your army and you never know when they are going to come of use to you. So I think a woman is foolish to pretend that they're equal to men. My husband is sitting there, but yes, I believe a woman is far superior and has always been. If you want something said, they say, ask a man. But if you want something done, ask a woman. And woman in this crowd, I think a woman is a woman. A woman is a winner. You watch this woman, don't challenge her. She has challenged herself time and again in her life. She has come out of the best of the most inimical moments. She's got married into new families and she has made that family her own. She will rise up slowly. She will, maybe later than you, but that doesn't matter. She has collected cherished memories of her children and a loving husband along the way. She may have to take diverse paths, but she's a versatile woman. She's a man in a man's world and a woman in a woman's world. Do I call her an unbeaten second half or the better half? I think it's up to the woman what you want to be. So educate a man, you educate an individual. And if you educate a woman, you educate a family. So what matters most is how you see yourself. And I want all these women leaders in this room to look at them as themselves, as the lioness here. Leadership is possible. You can have your dreams. You can have your right quotient of work. Yes, you need the right quantum of luck. I'm not sure whether I'm lucky tomorrow, because the elections is there, but that doesn't matter, because we should have the right amount of forgiveness in her, because there is still the world beyond to win. It is not just this solitary win. And I'm not going to go into all these details and more, but yes, woman, you have unique transformational ideas. There's a lot of passion and enthusiasm in the present day. And let's close that gender pay gap and all those crappy things which they say. But the woman in this audience, I wish you go to a different level entirely. And the men in the audience, I hope you realize that what I said is what all this is unsaid by the woman there, that women have to be given chance to grow to the pinnacle that she wants to reach in life. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, ma'am. As always, very, very motivating, inspiring for all of us. I think we just heard the roar of the lioness, all you girls there. And I think more than like a one-man army, we are a one-woman army. But it's not a battle of the genders. We are not here to outperform or compete with each other. It's how I think we get along with each other, work hand in hand to make our lives and our workplace a better place to live in. It's not one against the other, it's one along with each other. I think we are like the two these things of a cycle, and you have to move in tandem.
Chitra,
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that lovely
really
presentation.
a fantastic talk.
Fantastic.
I wish I was a woman. After listening to you. Seriously, I'm telling you. It's a genuine remark.
I think that's the best compliment you can